My friend, open your eyes. Not just the eyes of the flesh, but the eyes of the Spirit. For too long we have lived as if what we see is all there is. But the Scriptures declare another reality, a realm unseen, more real than what we touch and taste, the realm of the eternal. And in that realm, there are messengers, flames of fire, ministering spirits sent forth by the Holy One, angels. Yes, angels. They're not fiction. They are not relics of myth. They are servants of El Elyon, the Most High. And they are nearer than you think. So how do you know if they've entered your home? If the heavenly birsach has brushed up against your earthly dwelling, here are 9 signs. Not to worship angels, God forbid, but to be awakened to the movements of the Most High in your midst. 1, A, sudden atmosphere of peace. You are in your home, perhaps in turmoil. Your thoughts a storm, your soul unsettled. And suddenly, without reason, a stillness enters. A peace not of this world. My friend, that is not normal. That is not coincidence. That is visitation. The same peace that filled the shepherds field when the angels appeared in glory, to a call to prayer you didn't expect. You were not planning to pray. But suddenly a weight comes upon your heart, a yearning, a drawing to commune with the Almighty. Angels are ministers of prayer. They ascend and descend on ladders like in the vision of Jacob. Your house becomes a Bethel, a house of God. 3, protection that defies logic. The child is falling and lands unharmed. The fire could have spread but didn't. The psalm says he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. When the natural laws are halted, the hand of a messenger may be present for the presence of light, not always visible, but a shift, a glow, a radiance. Scripture says the angel at the tomb was like lightning. The light doesn't come from a lamp, but it comes a light in the spirit. And sometimes, even in the physical, in the messages, in the dream. The Lord often sends his messengers in dreams. Remember Joseph, warned by an angel to flee to Egypt. Daniel visited in the night. If your dream carries the weight of eternity, it may not be from your mind, but from heaven. 6, unexplained encounters. A stranger appears. They say something that pierces your soul, and then they're gone. The book of Hebrews says, do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some have entertained angels unaware. Could it be that you fed one, spoke with one? 7, Scripture's coming alive. You open the Word, and suddenly the page breathes. The verse becomes fire in your bones. You are being taught not by flesh and blood, but by one sent to minister. They do not bring their own glory, but point you to the Word made flesh. 8, an atmosphere of worship in your home. It begins in your spirit. Songs you didn't plan. Praise that rises unbidden. The cherubim never cease crying, holy, holy, holy. When you join their worship, your home becomes a sanctuary. 9, a war in the spiritual realm. Sometimes the sign is conflict, not peace. Resistance, confusion. Why? Because the presence of angels often means the presence of battle. Michael contended with the prince of Persia to bring an answer to Daniel. So when warfare comes, take heart. Help has arrived. My friend, do not seek angels. Seek God. But do not be blind to the signs. Your home, if given to the Lord, becomes a battlefield of glory, a sanctuary of visitation, a place where heaven meets earth. Let your house be Bethel. Let your living room be a place where angels tread. For the same God who sent messengers to Abraham's tent and to Mary's home is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Shalom and Eli me alone in the world, dominated by what we can see, hear, touch, and measure. But according to Scripture, the truest realities are not seen with the eyes of the flesh, but with the eyes of the Spirit. The Bible makes it clear there is another realm, a heavenly dimension that surrounds us even now. In that realm are the messengers of God, angels, flames of fire, servants of the Most High, ministers to those who will inherit salvation. Though invisible, their presence often intersects with our world in ways that can be discerned by those who are awake in the Spirit. One of the clearest truths revealed throughout the Word is that angels operate in the unseen realm. Yet they manifest their presence in tangible, unmistakable Ways deep throughout the pages of Scripture, angels appear not just in dramatic visions, but in the ordinary spaces of life. Abraham's tent, Jacob's journey, Daniel's exile, Mary's home, Peter's prison. Their arrival almost always leaves behind an imprint. It may not be a voice or a flash of light, but it is something you feel deep in your soul, a sudden peace that defies explanation. A word in season that penetrates your heart, a sense of divine protection or warning that moves you to act. These are not figments of the imagination. They are signs that the supernatural has entered your natural space, that heaven has drawn near. The modern world dismisses these things as coincidence or emotionalism, but the spiritually discerning understand that God often works in subtle yet powerful ways. Angels are not sent to entertain or to impress. They are sent to carry out divine missions. They appear when heaven's purposes are being advanced, when prayers are being answered, when danger is being diverted, when revelation is being given, or when a soul is being drawn back to God. Their presence is real, but not always dramatic. In fact, the most powerful moments often come clothed in stillness. A sudden atmosphere of peace can signal the nearness of the holy. That peace is not from this world. It is the shalom of heaven, the tranquility that descends when God's messengers are on assignment. This peace is unlike anything produced by circumstances. It doesn't depend on what is going on around you, but on who is present. It silences fear. It quiets anxiety. It speaks in the still small voice that Elijah heard on the mountain. That kind of peace is not imagined, it's imparted. And very often it is a marker of divine activity. Many have experienced this during prayer or worship, or even during moments of personal crisis, when by all natural standards they should have been falling apart, but instead a calm came, a strength they couldn't explain, a rest that settled over their home. That peace, according to Scripture, is often ushered in by the very presence of angels. The reality is this: if you are walking with God, you are not walking alone. Though unseen, the hosts of heaven are watching, guarding, guiding. And when they are sent into your home, you may not see their wings or hear their voices, but you will feel their presence. In that moment, when the atmosphere shifts and peace replaces fear, it is a sign. Not a sign to exalt angels, but to remember that you are being watched over by the one who commands them. His servants are near. Heaven has touched your home. There are moments in life when something stirs deep within. A sudden urgency, an invisible pull, a holy restlessness that compels you to seek God, though you had no such plan. You were simply going about your day, minding your tasks, when without warning, your heart is drawn to prayer. This is not always the product of your own thoughts or emotions. Often is the result of something divine, an unseen prompting, a heavenly nudge, a call from beyond the veil. And very often, it is a sign that you are not alone. Angels, the ministering spirits of the Most High, are often involved in these sacred stirrings. The Scriptures speak of angels as those who not only protect and deliver, but also participate in the spiritual activity of prayer and intercession. They are present in moments of divine communication, as seen with Daniel, when his prayers were heard and an angel was dispatched with a message. They ascend and descend upon the spiritual ladder Jacob saw in his dream, serving as go-betweens in the movement of heaven's will on earth. When you suddenly feel compelled to pray, when your spirit becomes restless for the presence of God, it may be that angels are near, setting things in motion, stirring the atmosphere of your home. This call to prayer often comes with a weight, a holy burden. You may not understand it at first. There may not be any external reason to explain it, but your soul feels the need to bow, to cry out, to intercede. This is more than personal devotion. It is participation in something bigger than yourself. It is alignment with a purpose that has been activated in the heavenlies. The angels do not speak to you in words you can hear, but their presence presses on your spirit like wind pressing against a sail, moving you in a direction you didn't intend to go. In these moments, your home begins to change. It shifts from being merely a dwelling place to becoming an altar, What was once a living room becomes a sanctuary. A kitchen becomes a holy place. And in that sacred space, angels move freely, unhindered by distractions, because your heart is open and heaven is near. The stillness becomes a dwelling for the Spirit. The walls, once ordinary, become witnesses to divine visitation. Prayer, called forth by invisible messengers, becomes the incense that rises to the throne of God. The enemy would like nothing more than for you to ignore these moments, to brush them off as mood or imagination. But those who walk closely with the Lord learn to recognize them not as passing emotions, but as divine appointments. Sometimes that call to prayer comes just before a crisis that you don't yet know is coming. Other times it's to stand in the gap for someone else. It may even be the result of a heavenly strategy, one where your prayer is the human agreement needed for an angelic assignment to be carried out. What is certain is this: when you respond to that divine call, when you yield to the stirring within, you are not only entering into prayer, you are entering into partnership with heaven. Angels are drawn to such places. They move in response to divine order, and prayer is often the signal. It is the trumpet that alerts the heavenly hosts. And so the next time you feel that unexpected urge to pray, don't delay, don't dismiss it, stop, listen, kneel if you must, for the unseen has entered your home. You've been called to stand on holy ground. And in that moment, the messengers of God may be standing with you, silent but present, as you align your home with heaven. There are times when something happens that defies logic. An accident that should have happened but didn't, a danger that passed by without touching you, a near miss that left no scar. These moments are more than luck or chance. They are often signs of divine protection, evidence that the unseen hand of God has moved in your life. And more specifically, they may point to the presence of angels, heavenly guardians, dispatched by the Almighty to shield, defend, and intervene in the natural realm. When protection defies logic, it is often the supernatural at work. The scriptures are filled with such moments. The psalmist writes, "He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." These are not poetic words. They are declarations of divine reality. God has given his angels charge over his people. They are assigned to guard, to guide, to encamp around those who fear him. They are not limited by the boundaries of space or time. They move unseen, swift as lightning, operating in the spaces we cannot access, influencing the outcomes of events we don't even know are threatening us. When you experience protection that cannot be explained by human means, it is not random. That car that narrowly missed you, the illness that passed over your home, the child that wandered but was safely found. These moments often reveal that angelic forces were at work. They do not appear in shining robes or speak with thundering voices. Often they act without being seen at all. But the outcome bears the mark of the miraculous. The natural laws were overridden, the expected was interrupted, the impossible was avoided. It is then that you realize something or someone stepped in. Many people have testimonies of such moments. A mother senses the need to pray for her child at a specific hour, later discovering that was the exact moment the child was in danger. A man hears a voice telling him to take a different road, only to find out the original route was the scene of a deadly crash. These are not coincidences. These are coordinates of divine intervention. And while we often thank God, and rightly so, we should also understand that God works through his agents. Angels are part of his response. They carry out his commands and execute his will. When protection surrounds your home in ways you cannot explain, you may be dwelling under angelic watch. Your home becomes a guarded place, like the camp of Israel in the wilderness, where the pillar of fire separated them from their enemies. You may never see the heavenly watchers standing at your windows, but they are there. You may never hear their swords clashing in the spirit realm, but their battle has preserved your peace. When God places a hedge around you. It is not merely metaphorical. It is often enforced by beings who stand between you and harm. This protection does not mean you will never face hardship, but it does mean that you will not face it alone. And it means that certain things meant to harm you will be stopped before they can even reach your door. The enemy plans destruction, but God sends angels to interrupt it. What was meant for evil is rerouted. What was sent to break you is restrained. And often, you won't even know what you've been spared from. So pay attention to the unexplained deliverances, the escapes that make no sense, the safety that surrounds your loved ones despite the chaos of the world. These are not just blessings. They are signs, markers of the activity of God's heavenly host. When protection defies logic, it is not the absence of danger, it is the presence of God, manifest through His angels who stand watch over your home. There are moments when light fills a room, yet no lamp is lit. A glow seems to rest over a space or fall gently upon a person, though no physical source can explain it. This is not ordinary light. It doesn't come from a window or a bulb. It doesn't cast the usual shadows. It is something different, subtle but holy, soft yet powerful. It may come as a brightness in the atmosphere or as a sense of illumination in the soul. And though the natural world might overlook it, the spiritually awake understand such moments are signs. Signs that something divine has entered the room. Signs that angels are near. Throughout Scripture, the presence of angels is almost always linked with light. When they appear, they shine. They carry the radiance of heaven because they have stood in the presence of the Most High. Their appearance is described as lightning, as flames, as dazzling and brilliant. When the angel rolled the stone away from the tomb of Messiah, his countenance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. When angels came to the shepherds in the field, the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. That shining was not symbolic. It was the manifestation of the divine presence breaking through the veil. This heavenly light, when it enters a home, may not always be visible to the naked eye. Sometimes it is. But more often, it is sensed. You walk into a room and suddenly it feels different, lighter, more still, charged with holiness. There is a peace that glows, a clarity that rests upon the atmosphere. It may come during worship when praises rise from your lips and your home becomes an altar. It may come during prayer when you are pouring out your heart before God and suddenly you feel the warmth of divine nearness. You don't see the light with your eyes, but your spirit sees it. And sometimes the light is not just spiritual. There are countless testimonies of people who have witnessed unexplained flashes of brightness, golden hues, or white light resting over someone in prayer or worship. These moments are not fantasy, they are footprints of the heavenly. This kind of light does not simply brighten a room, it exposes darkness. It lifts burdens. It brings revelation. It may come while you are reading the Scriptures. And suddenly the Word comes alive, as if illuminated from within. That is more than insight. It is angelic presence, preparing. There are dreams that fade when you wake up, fragments of thought, echoes of the day, the mind's way of clearing itself. But then there are other dreams that stay with you, that leave an imprint on your soul. They carry a weight, a presence, a message that feels too deep to have come from your own mind. These are not ordinary dreams. They are moments when the veil between heaven and earth becomes thin. And often they are the work of angels, heavenly messengers sent to bring direction, warning, or revelation during the stillness of the night. Throughout the Bible, dreams are one of the primary ways in which God communicates with His people. And more than once, those dreams come through the ministry of angels. Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus, received a dream warning him to flee with Mary and the child to Egypt. And in that dream, an angel appeared. Jacob dreamed of a ladder reaching into heaven with angels ascending and descending. Daniel was visited by angelic beings in the night who delivered prophecies and revealed mysteries. These were not hallucinations or subconscious desires. They were divine appointments. When an angel appears in a dream, the atmosphere of the dream changes. It's not like a regular dream where things shift randomly. It becomes focused, clear, and deeply spiritual. Often there's a stillness, a light, or presence that brings awe or even holy fear. The message delivered is often specific. It comes with purpose, not confusion. Whether it's a warning, a calling, or a word of comfort, the dream leaves you marked. You wake up different. Your spirit knows it was not just a dream, it was an encounter. In many cases, angelic dreams come during times of transition, danger, or divine redirection. When your life is about to shift, when something in the spirit is being released, heaven sends messages to guide and prepare you. The human heart is often too distracted during the day, so the Lord speaks in the night when the mind is quiet and the soul can listen. Angels are often the messengers chosen for these tasks, bringing what you need to know before you even realize why you need it. If you've ever had a dream that felt alive, where the words spoken carried a weight far beyond human language, you may have had an angelic visitation. Sometimes the being in the dream speaks without words, but you understand. Other times the message is simple but powerful, a single sentence that unlocks a hidden struggle or reveals an answer you've been praying for. You may even see someone you recognize delivering the message, but something in you knows it wasn't truly them. It was a messenger clothed in familiar form to calm your heart or get past your natural defenses. It's important to remember that angelic dreams are not for entertainment or curiosity. They are assignments. They come to align your life with heaven's purposes. When you receive such a dream, it's not enough to wake up and shrug it off. Write it down. Pray over it. Seek the Lord's confirmation. Ask for discernment, because with the dream often comes a call to obey, to shift, to act, or to wait. Angelic dreams are reminders that God is still speaking and that your home, your bed, your night hours are not isolated from the realm of the Spirit. Your dwelling becomes a place of divine encounter. Angels, though unseen, may pass through your rooms at night, delivering the words of the King. And if you are listening, if your heart is turned toward Him, you will hear. Not with your ears, but with your spirit. For heaven is closer than we think, and the messengers of God are still moving in the night. There's something sacred about a home where God is honored. It becomes more than just a structure of walls and rooms. It becomes a dwelling for His presence. And where God is welcomed, His messengers are near. Angels are drawn to places where worship rises, where obedience is practiced, and where hearts are turned toward the Lord. They are not attracted to noise or religious performance, but to sincerity, true devotion, humility, and reverence. Just as they visited the tents of Abraham, they are drawn to modern-day homes that mirror the same posture of faith, hospitality, and holiness in the story. In Abraham, 3 visitors appeared at the entrance of his tent. He welcomed them, fed them, and served them, not knowing until later that they were angels, and one of them, perhaps even the Lord Himself, in visible form. Abraham didn't entertain them with songs or rituals. He honored them with service, with open hands and a humble heart. That is the pattern. Angels respond not to show, but to substance. When your home becomes a place of generosity, of kindness, of love, without agenda, you are preparing a space that invites the supernatural. Hospitality, in the biblical sense, is not simply about meals and guests. It is about making room in your schedule, in your heart, in your life for the purposes of God. When you make room for Him, His servants follow. A family that chooses to honor God in their decisions, in their speech, and in their relationships unknowingly invites divine presence. A couple who prays together, a parent who fills their child's heart with Scripture, a house where worship music flows freely. These are not small things. They shift the spiritual atmosphere. They create landing places for angels. Obedience, too, is a magnet for the presence of heaven. Angels operate according to divine command. They move in harmony with God's will. When your life is aligned with that will, angels can move freely in and around you. Disobedience doesn't necessarily drive angels away, but it can hinder their activity. On the other hand, when a home is committed to righteousness, even in weakness, even in struggle, angels are assigned not just to protect, but to assist in the fulfillment of God's promises. Worship is another key. True worship is not confined to Sunday mornings or church services. It can fill a living room, echo from a kitchen, rise from whispered prayers at midnight. When worship is sincere, when it comes from the heart, not from performance, it changes the environment. Darkness cannot dwell where worship reigns. And where darkness is pushed back, light comes. Angels are drawn to light, to truth, to the places where God is exalted. A home that is filled with praise becomes a sanctuary, and in sanctuaries, angels walk. This is not mystical or unreachable. It's not reserved for prophets or spiritual elites. Any home, rich or poor, quiet or busy, rural or urban, can become a dwelling for the divine. The key is not perfection, but posture, a heart turned toward God, a spirit of welcome, not just to guests, but to God himself. A willingness to follow, to serve, to trust, even when the path is unclear. You may not see them, but when your home is filled with worship, obedience, and hospitality, you are not alone. Messengers are near, guardians are present, ministers of fire walk unseen among you. They carry peace, protection, and even messages from the throne of God. So never underestimate the power of what you do in your home. Every act of obedience, every prayer whispered in the dark, every moment of genuine praise. These are not just habits, they are invitations. Invitations for heaven to come close, for angels to dwell, and for your home to become holy ground.